So we are now recording, so please no swearing, not that anyone would have anyway. So we're going to get going. We're making Jerusalem artichoke gnocchi with a white wine parmesan sauce, which comes with chestnuts and sea bass. Obviously, if you are vegetarian, you could take out the sea bass. This recipe was originally meant to be just the gnocchi. I have adapted it myself. I just thought it was too heavy to have as a meal by itself, so I made portions smaller and added sea bass to make it a bit more refreshing. And we're also going to make at the same time a pear and blackberry and pecan galette, which is basically a fruit tart, just, you know, rough around the edges tart, which if you saw the picture, you understand what I mean by that. And how we're going to do this is, whilst some of the elements of main course are cooking, we'll prepare dessert, go back to main course, and then dessert can be ready once you've eaten your main course. So we're going to be chopping and changing between the two recipes, so make sure you pay attention, because you don't want to end up putting pear in your main course or sea bass in your dessert. So we're going to get going. I've already washed my Jerusalem artichoke. We're keeping the skins on. So they're an unusual vegetable. They're a root vegetable. They look a bit like ginger and have the consistency of a sweet potato. They're a very unusual vegetable to work with, but we need to clean them. I've already scrubbed mine. It doesn't matter if they're not fully dry yet. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to scrub them, and I'm going to prepare my tray for these to go in the oven. If you haven't already, please preheat or heat your oven now to 200 degrees Celsius, because we're going to put the Jerusalem artichoke in the oven.
Hayley, why can't we see what you're doing? I can't see you. Am I doing something silly?
I'm on there twice, Madeline. Can you see me? I'm moving to the second camera now.
Am I on the wrong Hayley?
Hi, I'm on here twice. This is my work.
On that camera, there's been nothing. So if you're showing us what you're doing,
she's only just come up on the
better.
second camera, Madeline.
I was on the other camera. You just couldn't see me.
She's just come up on it now.
So your oven should be nice and warm.
It's just it's talking comes up.
And you're going to want to get a roasting tray. I'm just going to move my stuff out of the way. I've got a tiny kitchen, so my hob is also my work surface. So I'm just going to move everything to the other side, so I've got space to show you this. It's fine because this gives you an opportunity to clean your artichoke if you haven't already.
Hayley?
Yeah.
It's Violet here. Question. You said heat the oven to 200. Is that a conventional or fan?
So the recipe is not mine. It's an adapted recipe from a magazine. The magazine just said 200. It did differentiate between different types of ovens. So I was put it at 200 regardless. And if we'll just keep an eye on it. And if you have to take yours out earlier because you've got a fan oven, then just take it out earlier. It just means that yours will cool down quicker, which is fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so you're going to take a roasting tin, and mine is already warm because I had it in the oven, because that's where I heat my tin, because I've got a tiny kitchen. Sorry, that was very loud. And then you're going to put foil in your roasting tin. Jerusalem artichokes are very sticky when they're roasted, so you're going to want to line your tins. And then you're literally just placing them in the roasting tin with a few gaps between them, so that when they ooze, when they're cooking, they're not all going to stick together. You're not putting anything on them, and they're going to go straight in the oven like that. Okay, so they're in the oven. I'm just going to come back over here at the other screen, and we are going to now prep our dessert. So if you have frozen pastry, I really, really hope that you've already defrosted, because we'll have a problem otherwise. Mine's defrosted on a plate. So I'm just going to tilt this camera down so you can see me better. And now we're going to prep our dessert. So I'm using this work surface in front of me here. I'm going to tilt it all the way down. Can you see my work surface? Yes, you can. This is where I'm going to leave my pastry to rest. I've taken it, it's defrosted, take out the fridge, it still needs a few minutes, okay? So I'm leaving this here to settle from being cold. I'm also doing that, I'm going to prep the pears. Now, some people will use a chopping board, a knife. I got this fancy new slicey tool. It's got a French name that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But it'll give me even slices of my pears. So we're going to use 4 pears. And you just want to evenly slice them. I need to take this off block. I've never used this before. And we're just going to slice our pears into even slices. I have just cleaned my work surface, so I'm using it instead of a chopping board. Just makes it easier for me in terms of spacing.
Hayley, are you peeling them with that thing?
Pardon?
Are you peeling them? I can't see what you're doing.
No,
Are you peeling them or slicing them?
Slicing them. This makes even
Okay, so
slices.
we don't have to peel them first.
If you want
Okay.
peels in that preference, I like to keep peels on fruit when I cook. I just think it gives it a bit more of a bite. But some people prefer fruit to be peeled when they have dessert. Sure.
I've had to use tin, so I'm assuming that's okay.
Yeah. It'll just have a different flavour because tinned pears obviously are already bit cooked. It just means that on the next stage of preparing the dessert, you don't need to do it for as long.
Okay.
Because we're going to semi-cook the pears before we bake them. So you won't need to do it. So,
Like issue buying pears.
well, I did a Sainsbury's order for all of the ingredients, and some of the vital ingredients didn't arrive. So I had to do a delivery today from Co-op. Oh, this slice is stuck. That's the cool, so I'm going to spray that. So we're doing 4 pears. If you're using tins, the tin's fine. This is a great tool. If anyone wants to know what it is, I will look it up. It's got a French name, cannot remember what it is, but it's by Joseph and Joseph. And it gives you evenly sliced mandolin. That's what it is called. It is a mandolin. It just came to me. It is a great little nifty tool for cutting things evenly. It's the first time I've used this, but I've used another branded one before.
Mind your
Hayley?
fingers.
Hayley,
Mm-hmm.
just because I'm a doctor's wife, has it got a guard on it? Because I'm terrified you're going to slice your fingers.
It does have one, but I'm not using it.
They're
because-
very, you should,
It's
they're
not
very,
bad.
very sharp.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going all the way to the bottom of the pear. I'm only doing it to the centre on each side. So I don't
Hayley,
want-
do remember the bagel slicer incident.
I haven't forgotten the bagel slicer incident. If anybody who wants to know, I cut my thumb off instead.
Oh,
of
great.
But I'm keeping my fingers away from the blade. I'm absolutely fine. I'm not being distracted by my friend at uni's puppy dancing around my feet. But time. I now have a bagel slicer. I must be the only Jewish person who doesn't know how to cut a bagel without hurting themselves. But I have a guillotine designed specifically for bagels.
Oh,
Hayley,
Found it online. It's £15.
Hayley, what kind of pastry are you defrosting there?
I am defrosting short crust pastry.
Short.
This recipe probably would work with puff pastry, but a galette traditionally uses short crust.
Okay. Thank you.
Obviously,
I forgot to buy short crust pastry, so it's going to be puff pastry. Mine's puff pastry.
these hairs are quite big, so I'm end it with only 3. I'm not going to do all 4. So if you're still cutting your pears, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to check the next stage. Dessert. Sorry, I'm just following my own instructions to prep the dessert. Okay. So I'm just checking my measurements for the next step. Okay. So I'm going to move over to the other camera in a second because I need to buy the hot. So carry on slicing your pears. I'm going to rinse my blackberries now because I haven't rinsed them yet. And then we are moving over to the hob, and we're going to need a small frying pan.
A what?
So a small frying pan to the next step. Just from the deal. So, go rinse my blackberries. Right, I'm going to leave them to dry.
My husband has eaten the blackberries. How many blackberries was it? I'll take them out the freezer. Can you remind me how many blackberries it was?
100 grams. And frozen.
100 grams.
Yeah,
Thank you.
frozen's absolutely fine.
That's
Okay.
hilarious.
I'm using a frying pan about this size of my head. And what we're going to do in this is we're going to make a kind of caramel sauce, a very runny caramel sauce. And we're going to put the pears in it for about 5 minutes. Andrea, you're using tin pears. I'll do it for about 2.5 minutes because they're already soft. And I'm going to take this over to the hob. We're using 40 grams of butter and 40 grams of sugar. And let me just check what it says. 1 teaspoon of mixed spice. Okay, if you don't have mixed spice, you can use cinnamon, you can use ginger, whichever takes your preference. Mixed spice is great because although it's its own spice, it kind of has a blend of everything. If not, you can mix your own using cloves, ginger, nutmeg, whatever you want. You just want to give it that kind of spice of like what I would call wintry spices. So I'm going to take this over to the hob. And I'm going to measure into it directly the 40 grams of sugar and 40 grams of butter, rather than make more bowls messy. So I'm going over to the other camera. Hello. Oh, someone entered. I just need to let them in. Okay, don't need that anymore. Okay, so we're going to measure into our saucepan 40 grams of butter, 40 grams of sugar. So that's down to 0. And I'm using regular caster sugar for this, but if you have a preference for a different type of sugar, that's also fine. If you know the conversion of what normal white caster sugar to your sugar, that's absolutely great. I don't know the conversions. So I'm using regular caster sugar, 40 grams. And then 40 grams of butter. I have butter that sits out on the side, unsalted butter. It doesn't really matter if you're using something from the fridge. Right, so you've got 40 grams of each. And then I'm using mixed spice, or you can mix your own. I'm using 1 teaspoon. Oh, that just leaked everywhere. I'm using 2/2 teaspoons because the teaspoon doesn't fit in these jars, so don't get confused. Saying this, so that's half. There you go. So you've got everything you need into the frying pan. Now what we're going to do is melt that down into a runny caramel and add the pear. If you're using tinned pear, that's absolutely fine. Just do it for a shorter amount of time. We all can. So we're melting it down. Take a couple of minutes. This one is sorry, it's quite hard. Might take a minute. Once this is melted down into caramel, then I'll add the pears, and then we'll leave the pears in for tinned, I'd say 2.5 minutes, and for the regular pears you slice for about 5 minutes. Anyone got any questions whilst I'm doing this? I feel like I'm standing here in silence. I normally have the TV or radio on. So.
How long do you roast the Jerusalem artichokes for?
So they're meant to go in for about 40 minutes to 60 minutes. So we're going to prep the dessert and the sauce, and then we're going to take them out. It should, time-wise, should work out very well.
Even though mine are tinned artichokes, do they still take 40 minutes?
They may take less. I would check them after the dessert and see how tender they are. Okay. You want them to be tender enough to scoop out the insides because we're going to mash it to become the gnocchi. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my caramel now. It looks burnt because of the mixed spice, but it isn't burnt yet, it's just bubbling. So I'm going to add the pear. I probably sliced too much. These pears are massive. You just want to leave the pears soaking up that caramel. I'm just trying to get a nice coating on them. These pears are huge. I probably only needed 2. Start softening and wilting and absorbing that caramel. I might add a tiny bit more butter to mine because I just got so much in here.
It's quite liquidy, is that right?
Yes, it should be. It should be a very runny caramel. You're just getting a coating on them. It's not like you don't want it to be like you're making a tartare. You just want it to have like a more like a syrup kind of texture.
Okay, mine's very liquidy.
Yeah, it should be. I've just added more butter to mine because I've got so much in here. So they're going to wilt a little bit. It doesn't matter if they don't cook because they're going in the oven. I'm just going to leave that there. I've got mine on a medium heat because I don't want the sugar to burn. Okay, so that's cooking off for a few minutes. I'm just going to quickly check my artichoke. Mine are nowhere near done. So we are going to leave those for a few more minutes, and then we're going to move on to assembling the tart. And then after we've assembled the tart, we will then be making the sauce for the gnocchi. So basically we're going to prepare everything ahead of the gnocchi coming out of the gnocchi. the oven. So the bottom slices are quite soft. So I'm just going to try and flip these over so the ones on the top get nearer the bottom. Any other questions whilst we're doing this? Everyone's so quiet.
We can hum so you know we're here.
Yeah, we're all on mute.
So this is going to sit for another couple of minutes. And what we're going to do once, I would say probably Andrew, because we're using tins, I would probably take them out off the heat now. I'm going to leave mine for another minute or two. And then what we're going to do next is just stir in the blackberries. They don't need to sit on a heat. They're just going to absorb heat from the pan. I'm just going to stir them in. And then we'll go over to my other camera where I'm going to roll out the pastry and assemble the tart. Right, I'm going to take mine off the heat and add my blackberries. Just stir them in so they get a nice coating of the sauce as well. And by stirring them in, they'll also get the heat off the other pears. They're not just at the top, they're embedded. Okay, I'm just going to leave that to the side like that and go over to the other side of my kitchen and roll out the pastry. Hello. So, as you saw before, I'm using my worktop, which after I finish dessert will be right down ahead of the okay, so I'm just trying to get the right angle. So now resting on my brain. Okay, so I'm just going to sprinkle is just plain flour onto my worktop so that the pastry doesn't stick. Okay, so yeah, this is nice and soft, so I can actually mold it by hand. You want your pastry to be really soft. So now we're just going to roll the pastry. If you've already got ready rolled pastry, then great, that saves you this part of the recipe. You're just going to roll it into a kind of rough circle.
You're on the wrong camera.
Can you see me?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
A circle, did you say?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be exact.
Because mine's
You need-
rectangular. I've just unrolled it and it's just come out the packet.
If you've got ready roll, it will be rectangular. That's absolutely fine.
Perfect, good.
I mean, mine was a block, and I'm rolling it out, and it's a rectangle with rounded sides. Really fine. And you want it to be about 3 millimeters thick. So mine is about the length of my rolling pin in both directions. Okay. Can you see the thickness if I hold it up? There we go. Okay. I'm going to grab a tray out of my oven. That's where I keep it. Oh, it's very hot. Bear with me. It's good. It's smaller tray. Bear with me. because my oven's so hot, I can't use my oven tray. I normally use for this a like pizza tray, you know, the round trays, but unfortunately it's got too hot from being in my oven. That's where I keep my trays. So I've got to stick it out earlier. Okay, so I'm going to use a flan tray. I'm just going to put that in like that at the moment, out, so it's sitting in the tray. And then
My tray was also in the oven, so I need to just cool it.
okay, no worries. I would do that, but all my stuff sat in the sink, so I can't cool my tray down. Okay, so once you've cooled your tray and you've put your pastry in it, I'm using a slotted spoon.
Hayley, move your display a little bit along so it's more in the camera. To the
Do I
left.
just put the pastry straight on the tray, or do I need to put some baking?
Other
things?
way. That's better. We can see better now.
Sorry, Andrew, I didn't hear you.
So do I put the pastry straight on this tray, or do I have to line it first with baking powder, baking sheet?
I don't line mine because I've got non-stick, but if you want to line it, then absolutely line it with some baking paper. It may make it easier to lift it out of the tray afterwards. Currently I'm using a flan dish. The base comes out anyway. So once you've lined your tray, if you're lining it, then lift your pastry into your tray, and then you're in the centre of the tray, leaving a 3 centimetre border. Mine, I can't control my border using a flan tray, unfortunately. You're going to place with a butter spoon your blackberries and your pear slices. I've got far too much fruit here because these pears are massive.
But without the liquid then?
Without the liquid, because they'll have enough liquid on them from pre-cooking them in the liquid.
Smells yummy.
Hayley, does it have to be a deep tray? Is it a deep tray? I mean, mine's a flat tray. I can't see on your, because I can't get your picture to be big. So,
oh, sorry.
How
So,
deep is your tray?
I would normally put it on like a round pizza tray, you know, like the flat, big round trays, because I think they're great pastries at tops because the underneath gets nice and crispy. But unfortunately, because I keep my trays in the oven and mine's got too hot, and I'm storing all my recipe ingredients in the sink, I couldn't cool it down. So I'm using a flan tray. So mine is about that tip. But
Hayley,
Hayley,
what's the diameter of the flan tray? Is it
the diameter I'm using at the moment, I would hazard a guess, is about 20 centimetres. But
20? Sorry, what was that?
About 20 centimetres. It's actually too small for this recipe, sadly.
20 centimetres is pretty small.
Yes, it is.
It looks bigger.
It's too hot that's in the oven.
Yeah, no. But it looks bigger than 20 from here.
It's about the size of my hands.
I reckon it's probably about, it looks like it's, 12 inches.
A hand span is 20 centimetres.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's more than that. It's a 30
I think
centimetre.
it's 25 centimetres then.
Yeah.
Does that look all right? Does that look a bit rubbish?
Oh, looking great. Looking great. I would spread it out a little bit more. Your border's still very big.
Okay.
You want your border to be about 3 centimetres.
Okay. It's spreading.
So I'm just going to spread this out a little bit more so I can get some more of the filling in because it's a wet waste otherwise. Then I'll put all the blackberries in. You'll find that the blackberries might want to sit on in an area because of the pears.
Yeah.
You just need to zhuzh them about a little bit.
Okay.
I don't think I can get much more of this. And what I might do with my leftover pears is fix them to a coulis because the waste otherwise. Okay, and then I just dropped my butter. And then you're just going to get your pecans. I use about 2 handfuls. I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. And I literally, with my hands, break them up as I drop them over the top. You don't need to pre-crush them. You can use chopped nuts. Hazelnuts also work really nicely with this. And obviously walnuts as well, because they're very similar to pecans. I find that walnuts can go very bitter when they're cooked. Oh, my measurements are all off from using this tray. So it's thrown me slightly. Sorry, everybody. I don't think I want to put all of these pecans on. So those going back to the side. Okay. So now you've got your pecans on your pie. You're just going to fold and crimp, going round the excess border pastry. So you end up with like what I would call a rough edge tart.
Well, considering I'm rubbish, it looks pretty good.
If you have too much in a certain area, just tear it off and push it when you've got gap. And we're not egg washing. Instead, we're going to use the leftover juice from the saucepan or the frying pan that you just used. So you're going to pick up your frying pan and find your basting brush, which mine is sat on the sink. And literally, like you're doing an egg wash, baste the pastry. Now, the original recipe for this then said to sprinkle more sugar over this syrup wash. I personally think that's, for me, is too sweet. But I guess it's everybody's individual preference. So if you like that crunchy sugar coating on your pastry and you're a sweet tooth, after you put the syrup on the edges, then sprinkle with sugar as you would a normal tart. But for me, that's too much. So I just cover it with this. Oh, I'm very sorry, my phone keeps going and I did turn off all notifications. So I don't know why it keeps going.
Will this be okay, do you reckon? Too big, too small?
No, that's perfect. That looks great. Okay, so I'm going to move that to the back of my hob because it's now needs to cool down. And now,
Hayley,
yeah,
it's not somebody buzzing you to try and get in. Is there anyone in the waiting room?
I don't think so.
Just a thought, just in case.
No one in the waiting room.
Okay.
Okay. So now I'm going to put the tart in the fridge, ready to put in the oven 15 minutes before I want to. Now, at the end of this recipe cooking, if you were to put it in your oven then, it would be ready 20 minutes after eating your main course. I like to wait a bit longer. So I'm going to put it in the fridge until 15 minutes before I'm ready to eat my dessert. I'm not going to put anything over it in the fridge because my fridge is rather full and it's going to just sit at the top of the shelf. I don't have space to put anything over it. But you might want to put something on. Depends how busy your fridge is, I suppose. Magnets keep flying off my fridge. Okay, I'm going to quickly clean this work surface. And then we're going to move on to making the sauce for gnocchi.
Hayley?
Yeah.
How long, how hot's the oven for the tart?
The tart goes in the oven at 180.
Thank you.
For how long?
20 minutes.
At 180. Okay. Right. But I would do it, I'll remind you at the end of the session. I'm just going to get something to clean the worktop. I'll be 2 seconds.
Hayley, I'm looking forward to having that tart next time we come to you, when it's allowed.
Oh, next year something?
Don't say that.
Okay, I'm just brushing down my work.
Fine, Nikki, I can stand on the doorstep.
going to just quickly wipe down my worktop because I'm going to use it again later to make the gnocchi. So if you're lucky to have a big kitchen, then you probably can have different worktop for that. Okay, and we're not using the rolling pin again, so you can put that aside for being clean. Okay, so let me just check what we need for the sauce for your gnocchi, and we will move on to that. Okay, so if you've got the recipe ingredient list in front of you, you'll be able to see that the ingredients are actually split by sauce and gnocchi. The reason it's like because there's butter for everything, and I've made it very clear where the measurements are for sauce. So I pre-measured out some of my ingredients, but not all of them. So one thing I did do before you guys joined was I sliced the onions, the shallots, because they often make me cry, and I didn't want to be dealing with that whilst on camera. So you need to, before we start, you need to measure out 25 grams of unsalted butter. Then you need to slice, and I sliced lengthways and then cut in half my shallots. There's 2 of those, so 2 shallots, sliced lengthways and then in half. And also, I'm being really, really lazy today. I'm so sorry. I'm using pre-crushed garlic rather than crushing my own, because again, just don't have the strength for that today. But you need 3 cloves of garlic crushed. Most pre-crushed garlic, if you're using pre-crushed, is a teaspoon to a clove. So I'm going to be using 3 teaspoons of pre-crushed garlic. And then you're going to need whichever herb mix you like. I've actually bought thyme, sage and rosemary because at Sainsbury's they sell all 3 as a bundle. So I'm using all of them. And 100 millilitres of white wine, 25 grams of grated Parmesan. You can also use Grana Padano cheese as well. It's very similar, but you want that really strong cheese. And then you need 250 millilitres of vegetable stock, 250 millilitres of double cream, and the juice of 1 lemon. But we're going to use the zest of 1 lemon for the actual gnocchi. So first, before you juice your lemon, please zest your lemon so you don't waste it. First time I did this recipe, I juiced the lemon and then threw it away, not realising I zest and ended up just a waste. So I've measured out my liquid and I've already cut the onions, or the shallots, sorry, and I've already grated my cheese. I haven't yet zested the lemon, so I'm going to do that now and put it aside for later on so that I can then juice the lemon with the sauce. So I'm just going to grab my zester and my lemon. I don't know if anybody, some people will have to use a grater if they don't have a zester. Use a fine grater to zest your lemon. I have an actual zester by Michael Lane, and it's probably my favourite thing in the kitchen. It is amazing. So the zest of the whole lemon is going in a bowl first later so that we can then juice this lemon. And when you're zesting, you don't really want to get the white bit. You just want to get the yellow outer edge. If you have waxed lemons, make sure you run them under hot water first to get the wax off. You don't want that wax in the food. I've got unwaxed lemons, so I haven't had to do that. But if you run a lemon or an orange or any, to be honest, any fruit that you eat the skin, and run it under hot water, the wax will melt off because they do wax fruit to make them glossy.
I've taken my artichokes out because they're getting a bit crispy. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. If you're using whole artichokes rather than tinned artichokes, they're probably nowhere near done yet. If you're using tinned artichokes, they're probably ready. When I take mine out, I'm going to leave them by an open window to cool because you need to be able to handle them later on. The beauty with this zester is it gets really clean, like really flat on the surface, which I've never got before when you use a grater. It makes it easier to then use a lemon for the juice afterwards. Only downside to the zester is a lot of it collects inside, so you have to take it out afterwards. Okay, so that's the zest of one lemon. I'm just going to leave it over here when I come to make the gnocchi later on. And I've got my lemon ready to juice for the sauce. Okay, so everybody who's cooking along with me, have you cut your shallots? And have you got your 3 cloves of
No,
garlic?
not yet. Should I do that now?
I know that you've got your grated parmesan ready.
No, doing the lemon.
So, but you've already grated your cheese, so great. So I'm just, now's a great time for chat because I'm already prepared. So we need, for those who are doing it along with me, you need your 2 shallots sliced, 3 cloves of garlic crushed, your lemon zested, 100 millilitres of white wine, 250 millilitres of vegetable stock, 250 millilitres of double cream, and 25 grams of parmesan grated. If it's not finely grated, you've got tiny lumps in there, it's really fine. So don't dump it. The only thing I haven't got ready yet is the juice of this lemon, but I have zested it. So once you've zested your lemon, you then need to get the juice of that lemon as well. So I'm going to quickly.
Can I mix the garlic and the onion, or are they going?
We're going to.
Hayley, are the garlic and the onion going in separately or together?
They're going to be sautéed together in a frying pan. So it's fine for them to be together. So I'm just juicing my lemon. Use whichever method you like to juice the lemon. I got this really lovely juicer for my birthday. So I'm using this. And it collects all the pips.
And who bought you the lovely juicer for your birthday?
You bought me the lovely juicer.
Can't imagine.
I personally would have gone for a ham though.
Everything that I got this year is kitchen related. I got a really cute little crab that sits on the side of your saucepan and holds your saucepan. He's really cute. I called him Sebastian, like from Little Mermaid. Right, so you want as much of the juice you can get out of a single lemon. If you don't have a juicer and you're squeezing it, if you use a spoon afterwards to press in, you'll get more out of it. Another technique is using tongs to squeeze it because you can get a better grip than with your hands. Some people I know use their teeth, but I think that's pretty unfair. Okay, so I've juiced my lemon and it's collected all the pips at the top. I've got the juice in there. I'm going to quickly rinse my hands, they're sticky. And then, how are we doing in prepping all the ingredients for the sauce, guys?
I'm done.
Okay, Madeline, how are we doing?
Yeah, just about, just squeezing the garlic, crushing the garlic, and I'm ready.
Wonderful. Okay,
Yep.
so I'm going to go to the other camera and just need to check the order. How many grams of butter is this? 20. Okay, so where's my other pan? I'm confused myself. It's just good. Okay. I'm using a giant frying pan because I don't have that many, and I've used medium sized one for the dessert. But you can use a pan same size as you used for the dessert if you've got a second one that size. We are basically building the sauce in the frying pan, starting off with the onions and the garlic being sauteed in the butter, and then we're slowly adding the stock and the cream and everything else to build up the flavour.
Can I use a saucepan?
Yes, absolutely. I like to saute in a frying pan, but either's absolutely fine.
Okay, high heat, low heat?
1 second. I'm just trying to get my butter. It's unsettled. 1 second. This frying pan's a little big. What's it called? Weighing my scales. My butter spoon.
Hayley, can you explain to me why recipes often say unsalted butter and then later you add salt?
I think because the density of the salt in salted butter far outweighs how much you would season your food with, is my opinion.
Really?
The amount of salt that they put in salted butter is very high. But at the same time,
I also find unsalted butter heats up better and doesn't
yes, it
spit.
does. It does. Right. So as you see, I've sliced my shallots in lengthways and then in half, and I've added them to the butter in the pan. Just need to get my 3. Oh, it's an unopened one. Nope. This is new, so let me just open this. Oh, I feel very unprepared for this part, but
I think you're amazingly well prepared. To talk and cook at the same time is pretty hard.
well, I've got good practice this year. I spend a lot of dinner time on the phone to friends whilst I'm cooking. So,
Hayley,
yeah.
Hayley, I have to go in a minute.
Yeah.
So well done. Are you
Thank you.
recording this?
Yes, I am.
So will I be able to see? You'll be able to send it to me, yes?
Of course.
Brilliant. Enjoy it, everybody.
I hope the meeting goes well.
And Hayley, I also need to go in a moment. So if I can get the recording for the second half or catch up with you for the rest of the recipe.
I will share it with everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That was lovely.
All right. I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Nina. Bye, Nicola.
I think Mum's already gone. Okay, so now you just want to make sure that the garlic and the onions and the butter are all well mixed and sauteing nicely. Good, turn the heat down a little bit because it's spitting. Did anybody know that the hole, it doesn't really work for this pan, but the hole in your saucepan and frying pan lid also doubles as a spoon, right? Okay, let them fry down a little bit. And the next thing we're adding is the wine, which is, I've already measured out.
Just pour it in, yeah?
Yep. And your herbs.
So have I cut my herbs? They're just in sprigs.
Absolutely fine. So I'm using sage, rosemary, and thyme. The sage, yep. I'm putting 3 sage leaves.
Yeah.
And the rosemary and thyme, you're better off not using the stalks. The stalks are quite bitter. So you just use your fingers to strip the leaves off.
Okay.
Might need to use your nails. I do have a herb stripper somewhere. I can't find it. So I'm using about 4 sprigs of thyme and 4 sprigs of rosemary with the 3 leaves of sage. You've got a nice balanced flavours.
Doesn't want to come off that easily. 1 sec.
Sometimes they can be really stubborn.
Yeah.
I really wish I knew where my herb stripper was. So I'm going to look for it. Does it mean I can talk to you whilst you guys are cooking? Found it. Okay, herb stripper. Amazing. Joseph. Actually, no. Joey, Joie. Again, great birthday present. And it helps you strip the leaves off.
I've actually only used sage and thyme, but it's the thyme that's not happy about coming off its little stalk.
Yeah, they could be quite stubborn. Right, I'm happy with that amount of
I've got to go to the garden and get it. I forgot. I'll go and get covered in snow.
That's keen.
I wish I could bring mine in the garden. Okay, so you give it a good stir when you add the wine and the herbs to your pan, and then you want it to reduce by half. I would crank up the heat to high so that it can reduce down. It also means that the alcohol will burn off. So you'll get the taste of wine, but you won't get drunk. I love the smell of the wine reducing. I don't like drinking wine, but I love it. I'm going to move this out of the way. Definitely in the way.
Did you say 3 sage leaves only?
So it's personal preference. I put in 3 sage leaves and I put a couple of sprigs of thyme and rosemary.
Okay,
just to get a balanced amount of all 3 flavours. So obviously, they're different levels of strength. Like thyme, you need to put the most. Rosemary, you need to put the most in. Then thyme, then sage, because of the size of the leaves.
Could you use dried if you wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. I like using fresh, but as you can see, I have a whole selection of herbs and spices here that I use when I haven't got fresh. So yes, absolutely. What you might want to do if you're using dry is I would use a teaspoon of each dry herb. But before you add it to sauce, just leave it soaking in a little bit of olive oil to help release the flavours before you add it to the food. Because dried herbs tend not to release their flavours overheat without having been encouraged. But yeah, I've made this with dried herbs as well. Absolutely. Because buying fresh herbs all the time is not practical. Especially because it goes off before you've used them up. Okay, so that's reduced by half. So we're going to add our next ingredients. I'm just going to turn the heat down while I grab the next ingredients. So your next ingredients add will be your stock, which I already have mixed up. So that's 250 mils of vegetable stock, any preferred vegetable stock. I wouldn't use just onion based because you've already got the onions in the sauce. So you really want a mixed vegetable stock. This was a stock cube that I've mixed up. That I mixed earlier. So you're going to add that. And then you want to pull the heat back up. And again, we're waiting for that to reduce by half. So it should all mix in together nicely. And it'll start thickening. And then we'll add the last few bits to it. I'm just going to, whilst that's reducing, I'm just going to check my artichoke. Oh dear, these are not good.
Hayley, have you put the lemon juice in yet?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
So my artichoke, for some reason, is not cooked at all. is a real shame. Oh, I know why they haven't put them in the top oven, even though I heated up the bottom oven. That would be why. So we may have to improvise shortly because this won't be done in time. Okay, bear with me because I put them in the wrong oven. I'm glad I checked. Things are sign of doing things live. This is still reducing nicely, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to quickly put my artichokes in the microwave to soften them so I can then throw them in the oven to carry on roasting them. Bear with me whilst I do that. Just move that out of the way. Drop it in the microwave. No wonder they didn't put. They're in the wrong oven. I hope everybody else is. They haven't made the same mistake. Now, whilst you're reducing your sauce, it's a great time to check your artichoke. Just stab it with a knife, and you want it really soft in the middle. It's like more soft than a jack potato would be, like a sweet potato. You want it really soft in the middle. If it isn't soft yet, leave them in a little bit longer. If they are, take them out, and we're going to leave them to the side to cool down because we're going to use them shortly. If mine don't cook in time, I'm going to have to improvise. We'll work it out. Okay, so check your artichoke. Make sure they're soft. If not, leave them in for longer. And I'm going to now look at what we're adding next to the sauce. Okay. The next thing you're adding to your sauce, which mine is nice and reduced now, well combined, is the cream. Right, so we're adding the cream, 250 ml of double cream. Stick out from the bottom. And I give that a good stir so it all combines. It will try and, because of the oil from the butter, it might take a while to actually come together with the cream. So give it a good stir. Leave that enough for a moment. I'm praying that my artichoke is cooking in the right way. Okay, so you want to keep your cream will be bubbling. You want to keep it on high heat, and you want it to get thick. Obviously, it's double cream, so it should thicken quite nicely. Obviously, we've added all that other liquid, so don't expect it to be as thick as double cream is when you give it a good stir. So it will be thinner than heated cream when it's heated by itself. No wonder all my trays were too hot. They're in the oven that's on, not the oven that's cold. Oh, what a disaster. Beautiful disaster. It's fine. I'll improvise if I have to. But what I do need to do is move the trays out the side so that I can use it. Well, that's what happens when you do live event. Can't always go to that. Oh, okay, there's space in that oven now. Okay. Sauce is bubbling away, and it's definitely getting thicker, as you can see on the spoon. So probably another minute with the sauce, and then we'll be taking it off the heat. Let me just check my artichoke. Oh, dearie me. Thank God for microwaves. What am I going to use if I can't use this? I suppose I'll just use more flour if I have to. See. Okay, I'm going to take the sauce off the heat.
Can I just leave mine another
And
minute
then
while to
bring
get
it
to
to out the way. Yeah. Of course, as long as it needs. Mine's at a decent consistency now. Like it needs a nice coating on its food. So,
No, mine's
cool.
funny. I'm just going to do another couple of minutes.
That's all right. These things don't go to plan always, as we know by the arcade. So, I think I'm going to have to be really inventive here because I'm not sure this artichoke's going to work for me because it hasn't been in the right oven. But it's fine. I'll tell you guys what to do.
Have you got a microwave? Could you microwave it,
Yeah.
Hayley?
You don't also when you microwave food, it doesn't get the same flavour as roasted. It's fine. Fine. They're in the microwave. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next stage of the sauce, which is adding the lemon juice.
While it's bubbling away, yeah?
Keeping mine off the heat, and I've added the lemon juice, and I've also added 20 grams of grated parmesan, and just stirring that in. The parmesan will melt because obviously it's still hot. You know, you can't eat. I've got a
So is
couple
that
of lumps in my parmesan.
juice and parmesan?
Yeah. Give it a good stir so the parmesan melts. I had a couple of lumps of parmesan because I got really lazy with my grating. So just bear with me.
Am I taking it off the hob at this point?
Yeah, I've turned the heat off.
Yeah.
And season to taste. As you said before, we used unsalted butter, but then we're adding salt and pepper again. So I've added a couple of grindings of salt and pepper. Stir that in, and then we're just going to leave that at the side. We'll come back to it later on. I'm going to check. I'm hoping that everybody else's artichoke is cooked now and they can take them out the oven. Mine is not. So I'm going to have to improvise.
My sauce is not looking very thick.
It won't be. It's a runny sauce.
Okay.
It should coat the back of the spoon.
Yeah.
As long as it coats the back of the spoon, you've got a decent sauce. I'm just considering what I'm going to use instead of the artichoke. I can't believe I did that. Actually, I can. I've done it so many times.
It's easy
Well, I have one of those. I have a standalone cooker, and it's got a small oven at the top and a big oven at the bottom. And I never use the small one at the top because who uses the tiny one when making loads of different dishes? Roast chicken, roast potatoes, in one oven. But we had a problem about a year ago where the bottom of it, about a year ago, and the bottom oven just stopped working. So I've got used to using the top. To now use the top oven for everything, especially when you're only cooking one thing at a time. But for some reason, I heated up the bottom. Oh well. Everybody else's artichoke should be nicely cooked now. About the oven.
Yeah.
And leave them by enough for them to cool down very, very quickly. We're very lucky it's a cold day. if you're making this in the future, you can prep the gnocchi ahead of the sauce. But obviously we're doing this so you can eat it straight away when it's finished. But yeah, the gnocchi will take an hour in the oven, and then you want to let it cool so you can build the actual gnocchi, because you can do it by hand. Oh, we're getting there with the artichoke. Mine tastes a bit funny because it's not roasted. It's fine. We're getting there. Great way. I'm so grateful for it right now. For everybody who fancied, Andrea, who's joining us tonight with us, is my very good friend, Jason, and my other very good friend, as well as Mum. Probably my oldest friend. So, yeah. Just waiting for this artichoke to cook. Yours should be cooling now. So once you cut it open, it should be really inside, and the skin should be crispy. What will happen is once it's cooled, we're going to scoop out the insides and use that instead of potato gnocchi. And then what we're going to do, we're going to put the skins back in the oven to really crisp up. It might be a problem for Andrea with the tinned artichoke, but it's fine. You just have to crisp.
They look a bit like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it should.
Yes, what mine look like. I'm not looking forward to taking them out of their skin because they're quite knobby, aren't they?
They're really hard to work with, but what I found, rather than scooping out the inside, I squeezed it out.
I do that now.
It will go like a.
Can I make a comment, please? Andrea, it looks like you don't have Jerusalem artichokes, but globe artichokes.
Let me look on the tin. You could be right. One sec.
Oh, it might be very unusual then.
It says that.
Artichoke, they're globe artichokes. They're not Jerusalem. They're green and they're leafy, whereas the other ones are more like a potato or something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll let you know if it works or not.
It might be an improvement. You never know.
They'll taste very different to the recipe. You'll be good to know what they taste like.
A new innovation.
Where do you buy Jerusalem artichokes? Only from the fresh.
I think so. I've never seen them canned, but
No.
I don't get out much these days, so I don't know.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Yvonne. You know, and and they're probably, because they're tinned, they might even be a bit, I don't know if they've been in brine or something.
Oh, well.
Or maybe.
No, I think they'll taste nice. It's just different. You won't be able to scoop them out so much because they're leafy rather than like
they'll be soft.
Yeah,
because the hearts are soft, the globe artichokes, but Jerusalem ones have got most fabulous flavour.
I've actually always believed that.
I think Andrea, very.
Well, I'll drink the sauce because it smells delicious.
I'm sure it'd be lovely with the artichokes in it as well.
I flung it over the sea bass.
Okay.
I've always believed that if God wanted us to have artichokes, he never would have put all that stuff on the outside just so we could eat the inside. Too much stuff.
For future, and you can, I normally get mine from Sainsbury's, but they were out of stock at the moment. So I got them from Radlett Through Tears. Just loose.
Got them from where?
The greengrocers in Radlett.
Oh.
To be
Am
honest,
I
I get most of my
scooping out them? Where's it scooping out? What are we doing once we've scooped out the mid? What are we doing with it? What am I putting it?
Scoop out the insides into a bowl, and you're putting the skins back in the oven. Andrea, you won't be doing that. You'll have to blend what you've got.
Hold on,
Yours doesn't have to.
I can take out, it's a bit squishy in the middle. I can take off the outer leaves. I'll try that.
So yeah, maybe reserve a couple of the outer leaves and then blend the middle.
Okay, I'll show you once I've got it all up my nails.
Right.
I'm
taking mine
scooping.
out.
There's not a lot of middle to scoop. It's all skin. There's not a lot of middle.
It's all leaves.
I squeeze them. I just need mine to cool a little bit because they just come out of the microwave. I'm just going to put them by the window. Bear with.
Whose recipe was this originally? Is this Ottolenghi?
No, it is Sainsbury's.
Ah.
I am a subscriber to the Sainsbury's recipe catalogue.
So have you added or taken things out of this?
I have adapted the measurements slightly and changed the seasoning slightly. And I have added the sea bass and what else did I change? Changed a few bits, I can't really remember. Basically, I like working with a recipe, trying it and then trying to make it my own.
Perfect. So that's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's
not though, is there? Have you got quite a lot? I haven't got quite a lot. By the time I've taken it out, there's not much.
I haven't got a lot.
About a handful. You'll have about a handful.
About 2 tablespoons worth, I think I've got.
You won't have much.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm going to catch up with you, but what you want to do now is you want to put the skins back in the oven so that they can really crisp up, and then you're going to put the scooped out stuff into a bowl. And now you can either use, I would say for Andrea, it's probably easier for her to use a handheld blender if she has one, because it's a different texture. Either a handheld blender or a potato masher for the next step. And what you're going to add to the bowl is, let me just check. Face skins I'm making through. Okay.
Like this liquidizer.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to use. So use either a masher or a handheld zhuzh thing.
Technical term, is it?
Yeah.
Technical term is zhuzh.
Yeah, we all call them
A lot of
zhuzhes.
time trying to work out how you spell zhuzh. Handheld blender is the real thing. You're going to add to that bowl with your artichoke. You're going to add your lemon zest. You're going to add 1 egg, 75 grams of grated parmesan, so that should be the rest of your parmesan, and a bit of salt and pepper.
Loads.
And you're going to mash it or blend it together so you've got like a puree. You will be creamy. Don't expect it to be smooth. But you're basically going to make a puree, and then afterwards we're going to add in flour and work it until it's the right consistency. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys get on with that, because my artichokes are falling down, and I'll catch up with you.
How did you say? You said you spelled zhuzh?
We haven't worked it out. It's an ongoing debate with my sister. How do you spell zhuzh? Ongoing debate. Okay, my artichokes are good enough to handle now. Let me just grab a spoon. Your artichokes are probably very sticky to handle as well, so you might want to wash your hands in between scooping out the insides and the next step.
What are we going to be doing with the skins?
So basically, we're going to crisp up the skins in the oven, and then when we make the dish, we're going to quickly fry them over so they're really crunchy and crispy. Serve them on top.
Right, thank you.
Little artichoke inside. You really don't get much out of the artichokes. The original recipe wanted 900 grams of artichokes.
Ah.
But that was as a main course.
Okay, now it's looking like that.
Have you got a paste?
Yes.
Perfect. Wait for me there.
Can you see?
Yes, it's looking good. I have no idea what you want to like. I'm so intrigued. I'm just trying to get the inside out my artichokes so I can catch up with you.
I'm still doing it, Hayley.
You'll still have some artichoke inside. Now, the reason the original recipe had 900 grams is because it was big. First of all, they were serving you like hundreds of pieces of gnocchi as a main course without anything else. Whereas I've added the sea bass because for me, gnocchi as a meal is so heavy. I'd rather have much less of it with the fish as a side rather than like a bowl of pasta. I find gnocchi much heavier than pasta, so I picked it as a meal by itself. But it was
Hayley, you said the original, excuse me, recipe was for 900 grams of artichokes. Was the amount of flour on that the same?
No, everything's been reduced.
Was everything okay? So the original was 3 times larger. The recipe. Got it.
Yes.
That must have been massive. Okay, thanks.
Yes, it was absurd. Like I didn't, when I first like made this, I misread the measurements and started off with a third of the amount of ingredients because I misread the recipe. And then when I made it, I just couldn't believe that that's how much the recipe called for, because we had leftovers. And for those who've met Dan, he likes his food, and there's no way we would have been able to eat the amount that was calling for. It was absurd. So I'm still scooping up the inside, so bear with me.
That's where I'm.
That's fine, because we're now basically at the final few stages. What I would do, Andrea, whilst you're waiting for me, is fill a saucepan with salted water, like as if you're making pasta. But make sure you've got some salt in there. And get that to the boil. And Madeline, if you're at the same stage as well, also bring a pan of water to the boil.
No, I'm still scooping.
Me too.
I'm still scooping. So it's salted water to the boil.
Yeah.
After this, some of them are so tiny, there's nothing inside.
It doesn't need to be like super salty, not like your egg on salt water at Hessa, but you know, as if you're making pasta and you put some salt in it. My hands are so sticky.
Yeah.
I don't know what it tastes like because I microwave these rather than roasted them. If they work microwaved, I will put that on the recipe. You can either microwave them or roast them, because it'll make it a slightly quicker meal. Microwave them. It might alter the flavour, and I will also get feedback from Andrea whether it worked with the other type of jokes.
Yeah, because it might do.
It'll be a very different flavour, but to be honest, the whole gnocchi is basically flour, flavourings, and then a pulp of a vegetable, and traditionally it's potato.
Right.
So during artichoke has that kind of texture. But actually thinking about it, regular artichoke is quite a stodgy vegetable. So it probably will work. Just taste different.
Actually tastes delicious with the cheese and the lemon juice. It's really lovely.
Most of the flavour isn't from what's inside the gnocchi. Most of the flavour is from the sauce. Okay, let me just throw these back in the oven. And wash my hands, and then I'm going to tell you the next step. Okay, so Andrea's waiting for the next step. I feel like Madeline and I are at a similar step. So the next thing I'm going to do, for Madeline and my own sake, so I remember, is adding to the bowl of your scooped out artichoke. You see my scooped out artichoke? It's not very much. But scooped out artichoke. I'm going to add an egg, whole egg. I'm using a large egg.
And parmesan.
And your 75-gram grated parmesan. And the lemon zest from earlier. Stuck to the inside of my bowl.
Parmesan shavings because I can't be doing with the grating. It's been fine. It's gone in.
That's fine. Madeline had grated as well. I didn't know you could buy it, to be honest with you. Oh, I got caught to my phone. And then you're going to get your wonderful, trusted zhuzher handheld blender or a masher. What am I on? Make sure I'm not unplugging the microwave. Okay, and then I'm going to quickly mute myself. It's going to be really loud. Oh, that's on here. I'm going to blend this together to a paste. I'm going to mute myself whilst I do it.
Hayley, can you bring the bowl further to the left? You're off screen. Please. No, a bit further left.
Towards
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm doing it with a spoon. It's so soft. It's just mashing into a paste. There's so little there.
Okay, so you should have something that's kind of like a paste consistency. Like, I would say it looks like a really lumpy cake dough. It'll be very wet and lumpy. You don't expect it to be smooth because you've added parmesan and the zest. There's still a couple of lumps in there. Sorry, it's going to be really loud for a second. Okay. If anything, it kind of resembles like wet scrambled eggs. Okay. And this is the fun bit. Now we're going to make coffee. Okay, so I'm just getting all the mixture out here. Okay.
Thank you, Hayley. I have to go, but it's been wonderful. So thank you very much indeed.
It's a pleasure. Okay, so to check my recipe. Handheld blender with the egg, the zest and the parmesan, and then you want to season. So a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm gonna put my salted water on the hob to get hot. I hope you can see me. I've got a medium-sized saucepan. Just putting some salt in and let that come to the boil. I'm going to make our gnocchi. Okay, so I'm back over here. Can you see me a bit? Yeah, wonderful. So you want to use your plain flour. Okay. And basically, we're doing this by eye. Okay, by eye and by touch. You want to get this to a moldable dough that's not sticky, but it's still soft. So I would liken it to colour, because like a rich dough where you want to be able to mold it, but you don't want it sticking to your hands. So we're just going to add little by little. So I'm just tipping a little bit in. How much I put in. And then you're going to stir it together. And eventually it'll come to a consistency where you can do this by hand. It's very wet at the beginning, so I've used spoon to start with. As you can see, it's getting thicker, but it's still very much not fine. Add a bit more.
300 grams of flour in this is huge.
Yeah.
It is
But you-
300 grams of flour, isn't it?
Well, that's how much you will probably use, but I'm adding little by little. I'm not measuring it because
Yes.
it
Understood.
depends on how wet your artichokes were. It'll be different for everybody, but you won't use more than 300 grams.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so now mine's at the stage where if I don't start with my hands, you can see it's breaking up. It won't form. So I'm just going to take my rings off. That will be a nightmare. This is a bit messy. My hands have got hot. Okay. So you want to take your rings off. This is going to get messy, and then you're just going to mold this dough. I would use one hand because you might have to add more flour, and you don't have sticky hands to go get more flour. So I'm just holding the bowl with one hand and kneading with the other. I've got loads of flour just loose in my bowl, so I'm going to get it to absorb all of that first before I add any more. It might not need any more.
Well, mine doesn't need any more, I don't think, but I haven't used up much of the flour.
It will be different for everybody. It really will. It really depends on how wet your artichokes were.
Yeah.
Also, you're not using the right type of artichokes. It might be totally different.
Yeah.
But for example,
I feel it where it needs to be. It feels not like it's. If I roll it into a little ball, it's very happy. Like,
okay, then we're at the right stage. Like mine, it's still sticking to my hands, so it's still a little bit wet. So I'm going to add a tiny bit more, literally like a sprinkle more.
and then am I rolling them into little balls like this size?
So what I do is I roll mine out into long sausages and then cut them into length, like into pieces. You can do it by rolling them into small balls, whichever you feel more comfortable. Also depends on your work surface, I suppose. In fact, you've given me the inspiration to do that.
They're going into balls.
Fine. So I'm actually going to do that because it saves me doing some more surface cleaning. So you can either, once you've got it at the consistency you want, and I think I am at that, so it's nice and soft, as you can see, like Play-Doh, but it's not sticking to my hand. Okay, so you can either at this point roll it out, like you can either roll it out into about a 2 centimetre thick sausage on a floured work surface, so like this, roll it out, and then once it's rolled out, cut it with a knife into chunks, about a chunk about that big. Now, if you've got pasta utensils, you can get really fancy and use one of those wooden boards to give it some bridges and some shapes. I don't have that stuff. So mine are going to be quite boring to look at. Because of my work surface, I'm going to take Andrea's suggestion. And I'm actually going to just pinch off pieces into little balls. What you're going to want to do though is make sure you've got somewhere that's floured so they don't stick together. So I'm going to just put some flour in this bowl that I was working in.
Is this something you can eat the next day as well, or is this just one off, you boil it and that's it?
So I did try it the next day, and it was fine, but it's quite a stodgy meal. So reheated the next day was not as nice.
Yeah.
But I made it with this quantity last time, and it served me and Dan an entire meal, and I had leftovers for lunch.
Yeah, this is a lot. I've got about 20 balls so far.
Yeah. I just couldn't believe that the recipe called for 3 times
The fish as well.
Yes, exactly. I added the fish because I wanted some protein in the meal. But obviously, if you don't eat fish, don't add the fish. And then you probably won't have leftovers. So I'm just rolling them into balls, not this big. And I'm dropping them into a bowl of flour so they don't stick together. Your salted water should be coming.
How big are the balls?
I would say.
How big are the balls?
The ones I'm making are about the size of a Ferrero Rocher.
Fine,
so
that's a good measure. Cope with that.
Hayley,
Hayley, if you don't use all the dough and you just make enough, say, for one meal, because you've got the fish, can you freeze the remainder dough to use next time?
I have no idea if it's freezable, but it certainly would last in the fridge for a couple of days. I don't know if it's freezable, but let's be real, it's just some roasted vegetables, some lemon zest and some egg and flour, so I don't see why it wouldn't be freezable.
Because there seems an awful lot there. That's the point for...
Yeah, no, there's loads. There's absolutely loads. I personally would probably, but this is because I don't use frozen food much.
That's
my food
made.
I would put my leftovers in the fridge and then make it the next day. But I'm pretty certain this could be possible. I don't see why it couldn't be. Nothing in
How long
it.
am I going to boil them for, Hayley? Only because my husband's starving. So can I go ahead and put them in the water?
You put them in the boiling water, and you want them to cook really quickly. They'll cook and come to the surface is when they're done.
Right.
Once they've come to the surface, strain them in a colander, and then you're going to add them to your sauce.
Yep.
With your chestnuts and basically fry them. So you can either fry them in a frying pan so they go really brown on the outside and then add your sauce, or you can just put them in a frying pan or saucepan that had the sauce in.
Okay, so hang on, let me just make
hang on, was that chestnuts?
So once they've come to the boil, you're telling me I'm draining them and then putting them straight in this sauce?
Yeah.
Okay. And do they stay in there forevermore?
And what are we doing with chestnuts?
1 second. Oh, okay, so with the gnocchi, once you've boiled it, you can either in a frying pan fry them in some butter, and so they go golden on the outside, like they caramelize them to put on the outside. Then add your sauce and chestnuts to the frying pan with the gnocchi. Or if you don't want to do that because you want to eat them quickly, they are cooked. They just haven't got that crispy shell. So you can just put them straight in the sauce and eat them like pasta. It really depends on the texture and how hungry you are.
Okay, so I probably won't fry them, but I can stick these chestnuts in the cream sauce as well.
Yeah, they go straight in the sauce, heat them up, and then fry your fish how you like it fried or baked or poached in the oven and serve it on top. I'm going to fry mine because I want it to be crispy.
Okay.
Last time I actually fried it and then flaked it into the sauce.
Hayley, if you fried the skins of the gnocchi, of the artichokes, would you put them for presentation back into the skins?
No, what happens with the skins, which you would fry usually, make them crispy and add to the top, but I think Andrea needs to go and eat hers. I don't want her to get in trouble for taking too long. But if you fry the skins, you then serve them on top of the dish like a crispy garnish.
Oh, okay.
Hayley, I have to go. Thank you very much.
It's all right. Glad you can make it.
Thank you.
Okay. So my gnocchi's been rolled. I'm going to go over to the other camera and add them to the water with a slotted spoon so I don't splash myself. Okay, so they'll sink to the bottom. Splashing everywhere. They'll sink to the bottom, and when they're cooked, they'll float to the surface. I am going to do the full recipe as it is meant to be, so people can see it.
And then after I've boiled the gnocchi, I'm just going to stick them in the cream sauce, and that's it. But you're saying that you can fry them?
Yes. Yes, and add the skins to them as well. But obviously, yours is slightly different anyway. So, but yes, you can fry them. They get a really nice like caramelized edge. If that makes sense.
Well, they're looking good, and my fish is on.
Okay, so they're cooking. They should float up very soon. They don't take long to float to the top. You might need to encourage them a little bit by giving them a stir. Okay. So I'm just moving things around. I've got space. You might want to wash your hands as well from rolling the gnocchi. If they're anything like mine, they'll be nice crispy flour.
didn't use anything like the amount of flour that
No, it really
I've
will
probably
depend
used about half.
yeah, it all depends on your artichoke. But you could have very, very wet artichoke. Mine, it depends how big they are as well. Like if they're really thin, narrow ones, like they'll look like ginger, for example, like much smaller. You won't have as much. You won't have as much moisture in them. Mine were really quite large. Like mine were the size. Each one, I could only hold one in my hand. That makes sense. They were quite large.
Yeah,
had I cooked them
it's a much bigger than mine.
Yeah, had I cooked them properly, I probably would have had a lot of moisture. I might make mine, so that would have messed my recipe up slightly.
Yeah.
But again, you won't use more than that, but you probably won't use it all. Sorry, I just need to. Are yours in the pan?
Mine are going into the
No,
cream.
I'm going to wait, Hayley, because Richard's in a meeting, so I'm going to wait, not cook them till, because they take very little time, do they?
Yeah. No, they really don't take much.
So I'm going to cook them when we eat. And I'm going to put some, there's far too many here, I'm going to put half of them in the fridge and hope that we can use them on another day. I don't think I'll pre-cook them. I think it'd be better to keep them uncooked.
Yeah, you'll be very, very dodgy if you pre-cook them.
Yeah.
In the dish.
Okay, I'll show you where I'm at. So that's them in there. Is that about right?
That is lovely.
And my fish is here.
Wow.
Lovely. And then it's just a case of dishing it up. And then, of course, don't forget to put your tart in the oven 15 minutes before you want to eat it.
Tart's in the oven.
Lovely. I had my tart with some vanilla ice cream. It would also be great with custard.
Yeah,
Also,
I did. Thank you very much. Looks great. I'm looking forward to eating it.
Enjoy, enjoy.
Lovely, darling. Thank you.
See you soon, Andrea.
Bye.
Send my love to Julian.
I will, darling. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Wow,
you very
Hayley.
much.
Take them out.
Okay, so my gnocchi come to the surface, which means they're done. So I'm just going to put them in a corner and strain them. But my camera's waiting around right now, so bear with me whilst I do that. Mine look like Canadian because I rolled them in balls rather than did the tubes like I did last time.
And they look like Canadian. Yes, I think mine are going to look like Canadian.
Yeah, mine look just like Canadian. It's really weird. Last time, because I rolled them out in sausages and then cut them, so they were like little sausages. Look nothing like this. Okay, so they've just been strained. Oh, I just dropped my saucepan. 1 second. Okay, they're currently sat in the cooker. Just going to check these skins. Yes, they are. Brilliant. I'm taking my roasted skins out the oven. Finally,
mine are now burnt roasted skins.
Mine are a little bit burnt too because my oven was very hot. Especially because I was using the wrong oven. Okay, so I'm going to put them in the frying pan. And this is the bit where a bit of juggling comes in. I'm putting my tray back in the oven so it's out the way. Oh my God. Okay. I'm taking my sauce off the hob so it's out the way as well. So that's cold enough to put down. So it means I can fry my fish at the same time as finishing off this dish. Okay. I don't know how you like your fish cooked, but I'm using a griddle pan. Hope you can see it there. And because it's a cast iron griddle pan, I'm not going to overdo it. I'm just going to literally rub it down with a bit of butter. Like that. A bit like you would if you're making a pancake. And then heat that up. And you want the pan to be, if you want your fish to have a really crispy skin, like as if you're in a restaurant, the best thing to do, I always do this anyway with my fish, is I leave it in the fridge open, season the skin with a bit of salt and pepper and leave it to let the skin dry out a little bit. But what you want is a really hot pan. You want that to be super, super hot. And then you put it skin side down and just wait for it to cook. It should start curling at the edges when the skin's really crispy. Yeah. Okay,
these chestnuts, the chestnuts are cooked. They're hard. The chestnuts are cooked, but they're hard.
Yeah,
so
they will be. So what
you put them in the sauce?
We're going to add them with the gnocchi to the sauce. I'm going to do that shortly. I love chestnuts. I was really worried I wouldn't be able to get them out. Okay, so that's hot enough. I'm just going to lay my fish on it and let that start cooking. We're not touching that now. We've got our skins in a pan. You can either use butter or some olive oil here. I'm going to use butter. I always prefer cooking. A little bit of butter in the pan. The recipe does say a lot more, but I don't think it needs it because our sauce is nice. But it's to everybody's taste. You want that butter to cook. You've got your skins and your chestnut in the pan. And your gnocchi. I think one just went flying on the floor. Nope, don't know what it was. Okay, so your fish is frying away. Take your breath. You've got your gnocchi, your chestnut, the skin, and some butter in a frying pan. You can either just put it straight into the sauce and not fry it over, or you can do it this way and it will give you a really nice, like almost grilled edge to your gnocchi. But gnocchi is essentially a potato, or in this case, an artichoke-based pasta. So you don't have to fry it. It just gives it another edge that is just possibly unnecessary, but I quite like it. It gives you a chance to heat up your chestnuts if you add salt. I can get the skin on my fish drifting away, which is great. And then when you serve it with your sauce, this again is totally up to you. Cress sprinkled over the top, really nice, like fresh cuts through the really creamy sauce.
Hey, how are you? I'm fine. I'm in the middle of a cookery demonstration, so I need to be fairly quick. Okay. Okay. Bye.
And I think a little bit of olive oil, and the only reason I'm doing that is because this pan is really scratched and the butter is sunk into the scratch. So I'm just adding a little bit of olive oil so it sits on the surface. Now, as you can see, I'll find a good one first. This is, where's a good one here? The gnocchi's starting to brown on the edges. I don't know if you can see it in this light. It's giving it like a kind of caramelized skin. My fish is nearly done, so I'm going to add the sauce to the gnocchi and chestnuts. The sauce probably will have formed a bit of a skin on the edge, so don't worry, it will melt down. So if you don't have as many frying pans, you could just throw it straight into the same frying pan as the sauce and just skip out the stage I just did where I fried everything over, because it's not a necessary step. It just gives the gnocchi slight texture, that's all. You could just put it straight into the pan with the sauce and heat it up, which is what Andrea did before. I'm going to open my window a little bit wider. This is the fish fry. Fish skin is crisping up nicely. This one's quite a thin piece. I think it's going to rip. Yeah, it's going to rip. But it should, on this hand, just sit and not tear. But one of the slices is very thick. Okay, so you want it nice and heated up. The sauce will bubble. Your skins will stay crispy. Your chestnuts will soften and go and heat up, obviously. And then, when you're done with it, literally pasta dish, fish on top, bit of press. And then you can put your pot in the oven. And yeah, that's the whole dish. And mine's still going to cook away for another couple of minutes. My fish is nearly done. Any questions before this ends? It took a little longer than planned, but we didn't start straight away, and I did have a hiccup of using the wrong oven. So I'm sorry about that. This should have finished a while ago.
Wheelies tomorrow.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
Really? Do you cook the fish both sides, or do you only cook your fish on the one side?
I only cook it skin down, so the skin goes super crispy.
And the other side just gets cooked automatically.
Whichever, yeah, both sides will cook, and the skin will go really crispy. You can, right. If you're very careful, you may be able to lift it and lay it down just to sear the top. But I don't do that. Also, the other thing which is really nice, which I did last time, is I fried it like this, and then I flaked it up and mixed it into the sauce.
You fried it up and plated it. Sorry, say that again.
And then I shredded it with some forks.
Yes.
And then mixed it into my sauce.
Right.
But it depends how you want to serve it. I'm going to serve it like this with the fish laid on top this time with the crust.
I hope Dan's ready for it.
Pardon?
I hope Dan's ready for it.
Yeah, he's currently on a Zoom with his stool, so I will have to go get
Where did I put my water?
I'm very sorry this took longer than planned.
Don't worry. My other half's still in a meeting, so it's not a problem.
This one's going to tear. You've seen it already. I am going to turn it over because this one's going to rip otherwise. So I am going to turn my fish over. I don't usually. But the skin is super crispy like it is in the restaurant. I'll show you.
No. Sauce for 2 people.
Quite large for 2 people. I don't want to make any smaller because I've already written so much. You could save some of the sauce for next time. We'll probably keep for about a day or 2 in the fridge.
How long will it keep, do you think, that sauce?
Probably a day or 2. Cream and white wine, isn't it? And cheese.
Yeah.
Right, so my fish is done. So I'm going to make that. Oh no, it's gone to the rip. Right, I'm going to plate up. That fish is going to rip. What's the thing I'm going to get off the fire on? So,
I've got the main bit.
Make sure you get a bit of everything in each bowl.
I've got most of the recipe. I'm not going to do the end bit. Do you want your roast vegetables?
Oh, right. Not cold.
No, they're room temperature.
Violet, are you eating this tonight? Have you been cooking? Where's Violet gone?
Here.
I'm here.
Are you
Sorry,
doing this tonight? Are you eating this tonight?
No. We're having roast. We're having roast breast of turkey.
Oh, right.
No. I think you're a genius, Madeline, for doing it.
Well,
You know,
otherwise
Haley
I'd never do
cooking.
it. Otherwise I'd never do it.
Well, no, I'm going to type it all up and make it legible because I'm, a bit of a mess, and then I'll see. But I like the gnocchi bit. That's the bit that really interests me.
yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm doing it with sea bass, but actually I think it would have been fine on its own, Haley.
I think gnocchi was just a plain sauce. I don't know, somehow maybe some butter over it. Or the onion sauce is nice, but I think I'd leave off the, that's for the fish, but I'd maybe leave off the chestnuts.
I mean, it's adaptable. It's one of those recipes that you can pick and take what you want from it.
Absolutely.
That's what I did with the original recipe for Sainsbury's. I was like, well, which bits do I like the look of? Which bits do I want to keep? And then I adapted it accordingly.
I've taken half the pot.
So I'm taking mine. We've got the crispy sea bass. It's not very meat, but the crispy sea bass, some cress. I'm making with some gnocchi, some skins, and some chestnut in each bowl.
Looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm pleased I didn't cook it. I'll do it myself quietly in the kitchen and have a nervous breakdown rather than in front of everyone.
Trust me, I've practiced it twice ahead of time.
You get your vegetables.
That looks fantastic, Haley.
Thank you.
I don't think I'm going to send you a picture of mine.
I mean, if you looked at the photos of the first time I made it, it wasn't great, which is why I used the magazine photos for the advert. But obviously that didn't have the sea bass in it.
Haley, just one thing. Viv said she's going to type it up, but you said you were going to make sure it was available, that we could actually print it off somewhere.
So I'm going to save this video, and then I'm going to type up the full recipe, including the ingredients and all the step-by-step.
Lovely.
All in one document, and I will share it with everyone. I'll attach it to the weekly email, and I'll also share it to everyone who's here tonight.
And I think Viv ought to know that because she said she was going to type her notes up. So
that's fine. She'll get a copy of it as well.
And may I say, Haley, I admire any woman that still actually has Ribena, because I have mine as well. I can't live without my Ribena. And I've been told I'm far too old to drink it, but I don't believe there's any upper age limit.
Cold Ribena during the day and hot Ribena at night, or if you're not feeling well.
Wonderful.
So,
Wonderful.
in my house, I can't live without it. It also goes in my bolognese.
Ribena?
Yeah.
What? I guess it's like the sweetness of the tomato. Yeah.
I add, as everyone does, I add a bit of Kiddish wine. That's why I have a Kiddish wine here. Yeah. Kiddish wine, tomatoes, herbs, spices.
Yeah.
And a splash of Ribena.
Oh,
really?
It adds a nice caramel. I used to add sugar. I sometimes add this actually. I've got black garlic sugar from Spiceway in Radlett, but they're a herb and spice company. You can buy it online.
Okay.
Black garlic sugar, and I sometimes add a teaspoon of that to my bolognese. It's great.
I'm more curious, what do you add Ribena to besides the bolognese?
What else do I add Ribena to?
But what else?
Sometimes when I make rhubarb compote, if it's far too tart, I'll add a splash of Ribena.
Lovely, lovely.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. You can add orange juice to rhubarb. It stops stops it sticking on your teeth.
Oh. I would rather add, a lot of the time, I'd rather add literally a drop of Ribena, like a teaspoon of Ribena to something, than a tablespoon of sugar.
Lovely.
Yeah, good idea.
Ribena is already a syrup, so it's a lot of sugar. Yeah. But you don't have to add as much as you would if you're adding the sugar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do add it to quite a few things, but I
Hey, Hayley, is Spiceway, is that the one at the farm?
yes, so the Spiceway is based at the farm. It started off as a very small little company, but now they have a website, so you can order it.
Oh, it's huge. And what was odd is I went to visit some friends in the days when one did things like that in Ashkelon, and it's the same store. It was the same store in Ashkelon as it was in Radlett.
Hayley, what's it called again?
Spiceway.
Spiceway.
It was somebody I knew, his mum was over. Basically, it started off as a tea company. So in Israel, you can go buy fruit and herbal tea from a sack, and they do it by weight as loose leaf tea. And the fruit is like dried fruit. And when you had the water, you get like the dried fruit floating around in your drink, and you can eat it. And they loved it. So that's what it started off as. They started off selling teas. And then they realized that the herbs and spices was like a huge thing. And they started making, you can either buy just standalone herbs and spices by the pot, or they sell blends. And I've got a few blends, and the ones which I would highly recommend, other than the black garlic sugar, which goes both sweet and savory. I put it in my crumbles, I put it in everything. My staple, and I probably get through one of these at least every 2 months, is their ravishing rosemary. Perfect on parsnips. It's basically a rosemary and garlic salt. It goes on everything.
There's an excellent in Borough Market. There's a spice little shop, and they do you name it, they do it. And you know, when you see on MasterChef that they sort of put crumbs of like dried, you name it, chocolate, raspberry, lemon, whatever, they have it all there in powder form. And
they don't have the dried fruit, but they have all the herbs and spices.
I know, but what they do, which is brilliant, is smoked garlic granules.
Ooh.
And that is, you know, our neighbours from Israel brought me a little pot full last summer, but I'd already bought this stuff, and it's wonderful. I'm going through it like a dose of salts. You know, I just put it on like chicken breasts and fry them up.
Yeah, nice.
But this place,
it was black garlic salt, did you say?
Granules.
Granules, black garlic granules.
The one that I've got is black garlic sugar.
Sugar?
Yes, black garlic sugar.
Okay.
Really,
right.
If you look at, you can see it's really sticky. And it's like it's sweet, it's sugar, but it has a kind of garlic hint to it.
Wow.
So you can use it both sweet and savory. Great in a crumble, also great in all your like bologneses and things like that. The other things which I've got, which I haven't quite got used to this one yet, which is orange and cinnamon salt.
Nice.
It's heavily salted and not very much orange and cinnamon. So I got my measurements wrong with this. I'm not quite used to using it, but it's nice. The other ones which I can't live without are my fancy fish.
Fancy fish?
Yeah, it's their fish blend, their fish spice blend, and it's so nice. I think it's like za'atar.
I've got za'atar. Yeah.
It's really nice. And they have a shakshuka blend as well, and I make a lot of shakshuka. So that goes in most of my shakshukas.
And all of these are online, I presume.
Yeah.
The one they have a lovely granola if you're into breakfast. Their granola is excellent.
And their teas are lovely. Their herbal and fruit teas are gorgeous. But the one thing I can't live without is this, the ravishing rosemary.
Which is what?
Thing I bought for my kitchen when I moved into my house.
What's it called? I got rosemary.
Ravishing rosemary.
Okay.
It's a garlic, rosemary, and what's in it? It doesn't really say the full ingredients. Oh, here it is. Rosemary, garlic, and salt flakes. That's all it is. Raspberry, garlic, and salt flakes. It's like the perfect balance. So every teaspoon gets a bit of everything.
I'm just wondering, I've got something that I can only get over on the States, which is a garlic, it's called Garlic Plus.
Probably very similar.
So there may be something on this spice ways that I can find that's similar. It's also garlic with mixed spices and herbs in it, mostly herbs actually. So I'll see if I can find something in spice ways.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have something. The other one
I'm sure they will
in America, but I think they started stocking it. is the
Lovely.
everything bagel seasoning, which if you know anybody who ever goes to America, they always bring it back with them. It's called the everything bagel seasoning, and it's like everybody's top go-to. And I think Spiceway are going to start doing their own version of it if they haven't already.
Lovely.
But yeah, their stuff is fantastic. There's another brand which I use, which is a spice brand, and they do one that's a soup topper, but it's not, they don't sell it in big quantities. So I'm going to see if Spiceway have an alternative, because I know what the ingredients are. And it's basically like a spice blend,
Hayley.
with a chili base, which I add to soup. Brilliant.
And it's called what?
It's called soup.
Yeah, have you, Hayley, have you ever come across lime pepper?
No, but that sounds amazing.
What pepper? What pepper?
Lime.
Lime
I
pepper.
can't get it anymore because they used to sell it at the canteen at Lloyd's of London, but they discontinued it. Because I had a friend who worked there. But yeah, it's wonderful for fish.
That looks really good. My mum's just given me one, which is like a chili base, which is it's meant for fish. She puts it on salmon, and she says it's amazing. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it is either.
No, I don't do chili. Chili and I don't like each other very much.
I've built up a liking to it over a few years. I've got my spice tolerance. But so now I love spicy things. So the soup topper is quite spicy. It's a chili blend, and you heat it up in a like tablespoon of oil, and then you drizzle it over your soup. So I drizzle it over like a Heinz tomato, and it just gives it a bit of a punch. But if you don't like chili, that's not for you.
I'm with Violet there. I'm not a lover. I love herbs, but not. I don't like hot.
Oh, I'm a huge. All of my baking has ginger and cinnamon.
I like horseradish. You know, pesa. I love that hot.
And you know what? Exactly the same. I like horseradish, and the other one is what's the the Chinese one you have in?
I'm going to stop the recording.
No, the Japanese.
Bless you, Hayley. Thanks, darling. Very